Hello, I'm Daniel Halls and welcome to Power Platform Principles. Today I want to do a video based around a Microsoft concept which is used quite a lot but not often explained to general Microsoft 365 users. And it's a phrase that's been coined by them as citizen developers. And really what I want to do today is talk about what a citizen developer means and compare that to a more traditional IT-led development program and give you some of the general considerations as to whether a solution that you're building should be more citizen-led or more ICT or business-led. The first thing to talk about is what does it mean to be a citizen developer? And really what Microsoft tell you is this is someone who in the organization has a passion or an interest in IT that likes to utilize technology to make their day job much easier. And what the Microsoft 365 stack has is a number of tools that are accessible to most of your staff or all of your staff across the business by default, including tools like Power Platform, SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, Power Automate, and using these things, we can create solutions to make our day job easier. So before we dive into a citizen developer type solution and what that might look like, I want to talk to you a little bit about something called ALM, Application Lifecycle Management. Who's going to own the solution? Right? And what I mean by that is if it's something really simple like in my day job, I have to look after, I don't know, the Christmas leave arrangements. That's not really something that's business critical. It's something that probably is very important to a lot of people, but it's something I can probably put on a spreadsheet or in a SharePoint list and manage myself fairly easily. And the business isn't going to worry too much about it. But if it's something more intrinsic to how the business works, so it might be that you need to request a new supplier. There might be a number of departments involved in that process. So you might need to pass it from department A to department B for approval. Say it's something that's going to lead to new work or revenue coming in. That's going to be more business critical. So thinking about what you're working on and who it's going to impact and how many people across the business are some of the first things we need to think about when it comes to lifecycle management. Then we want to think about the scale of information going into it. How much data are we going to be processing? Are we going to be putting thousands and thousands of rows of data in every day? Are we going to put one in a month? Are we going to put one in a blue moon? What's the volume that's going to come out of this process? And if it's a large volume, then we're going to be needing to think more along the lines of it being a business ICT-led development program. Another thing to think about is, okay, who's going to look after this once it's built? And what I mean by that is, let's say you built a really wonderful solution today and you get a bug in the system or you get an idea to enhance it. Whose responsibility is it going to be to update that solution? Who's going to manage the development of that? And then there's lots of other ALM type conversations that you need to have around test cycles, release cycles, access, permissions, and so on. So just to give you an idea of that, I'm going to nip into my Power Platform environment for Power Apps home screen for a moment and show you something called environments. If you're a citizen developer, environments aren't really going to be something that you're going to be too worried about. But if it's a business-led development, environments are going to become very, very important. And I'm only touching on this briefly again to give you some food for thought around, is your solution citizen or is it IT-led? Now, the default environment that you can see here on the right-hand side is the one that all users get general access to, okay? And when you build a citizen developer app, that's where it lives. That's quite simple and easy concept. It's the default environment, everything goes there by default. But then what we've got, I've put in a few other environments. Now, I've got a dev environment, a pre-prod environment, and I've got a prod environment. So that's development, pre-production, and production. Or pre-production could be UAT, it could be testing, something like that that you set up. And the reason for that is if you build quite a large application, you might want to consider packaging it as a solution, which is a tool here on the left-hand side, and building it in a development environment so you can make sure you get all the bugs out and you can fix it, tinker with it, and then deploy it or move it or copy it from dev into pre-prod. Once it's in pre-prod, you could then get testers involved and they could test if your solution actually works. If it doesn't, you can go back to the dev environment, you can fix it up and you can push another one forward and test the next one. And that goes on until you're happy with it and you push the solution all the way to production for users to get their hands on. That is a concept of ALM, Application Lifecycle Management, that if you're going to need that level of management would be an ICT-led activity, or recommended to be, because it's a far better way of managing bigger, more long-term solutions. So we won't go any further than that, other than a solution, an environment, ALM process around a more business critical solution would be something that wouldn't necessarily fall into that citizen developer camp, generally speaking. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about just a quick scenario of what we want to try and achieve today. And with that scenario, we're then going to show you how to take it from what it is now into a citizen developed solution. So I'll give you an example that I'm going to work through in this video. And it's an internal process around accounts payable, and it's raising a new request for an invoice. So let's just say in this fictitious company, we have an accounts payable department, and their job is to invoice people that we need to pay. Across the business, there's a process largely evolved around emailing accounts payable, asking them to invoice a particular person, and accounts payable put that information onto a spreadsheet. This spreadsheet's managed by them, it's inputted by them, nobody else has access to it because they don't want people to ruin all of their data. But what we need is we need to make it a little bit more efficient. Some of the problems that we can have in this scenario is we're relying on somebody emailing accounts payable to send the information in. Then ensues maybe a conversation with accounts payable about, okay, what information do I need? What's the contact detail? Who's the customer? How much for? Etc. etc. Then we've got to manually then take all that information and enter it into a spreadsheet, so we could key the data in incorrectly. We've also then got just one master copy locked by accounts payable, so only one member of the team could use it at any one time. And then what we have to do is rely on ourselves to go back to that spreadsheet and update it later on. So we're going to talk about a citizen developer-led solution to this problem. You can see I've created a very, very basic spreadsheet for invoices. And as I said in the example, once the email comes in, what I might do is I would come into my spreadsheet and I'd say, okay, Mr. Hall's emailed me. He works in IT. He wants to spend loads of money, £100,000, why not? And he wants to spend it on a car. It's not an existing supplier, and he would like a, I don't know, a Ferrari. No, what would I have? I'm overthinking it. Let's just say it's a Corsa. There we go. Which would be Vauxhall if we're being really picky. And it might be that I've got a contact there. It might be S. Smith. And no, we haven't raised the invoice. Okay, and it would be up to accounts payable to keep this spreadsheet up to date. So you can see that's very common nowadays in organizations to have spreadsheets to manage things like this and processes. Now, we've talked a little bit about the limitations. We know, spreadsheets can be locked for editing by other users. We know that it can become quite tedious to go into a spreadsheet and just keep updating cell after cell. The other thing as well is without any real work on the spreadsheet, these input fields, so it's IT there, that could quite easily be done as ICT. That one could become something completely different. Filtering these things then you end up with a different subset for ICT. Trying to produce reports then becomes tricky. So you can, and obviously you can build up really nice, fancy, complicated spreadsheets if you want to. But again, they then need maintaining themselves. So what I want to do now is I want to talk about the quick way into citizen development. This is exactly where a citizen developer would benefit from using it. This is managed by one team. We want the business to use it. We want to get it onto our SharePoint site so it's centrally managed, but we want to do it in a fast way that's very close to out of the box so that supporting it is easy. And that's really a good test for citizen development. Can I manage this myself? Can I create it myself? And can I look after it going forward? Okay, so let's take my invoices here and let's go. I'm going to close it. I'm going to save it. So my invoices. I'm going to go to my SharePoint site. So here's some quick tips on getting that process out of Excel and into SharePoint. So on my accounts payable site, I've got the ability to create some various things because I'm the owner of the site. You need that level of permission. And I'm going to create a new list. Now I could create a blank list and I could create all the columns that I know I've got in my list, and I could, choose the different types and formatting and so on if I wanted to. But I've also got this handy From Excel button. So what the backbone of citizen development is using quick shortcuts that Microsoft have built into their processes so that everything is as close to out of the box as possible. So if I upload a file and I select my invoices and I hit open, we will see that SharePoint then creates this, how do you want to configure these columns? There's all my columns and all the data sets that I've got in here. How do you want to configure this? And I've got now the choice to go through and just set a few things up. So I've got my table, I've got the title column in place here, and it's got team. Now team's a really good one that SharePoint's going to give us some benefits from that are a little harder to achieve in Excel. You can do them in Excel, but a little harder to achieve because you can create drop downs in there. But I can change this from a single line of text to a choice field. And I'll show you how to update the choices on that in a moment. Just for importing, it says what type of column is it? Away we go. This one here has gone for Siri. Siri has just come involved in the conversation for a moment. So that's your choice field. The next one along has gone, oh look, you've got lots of numbers in here. So we'll make this a number. But you can also then go, actually, it's not a number, it's currency. So let's make it display as a currency. Thank you very much. Reason, that would be single line of text. It might even be multiple lines of text if you wanted a big blurb of description, but I'm going to just leave it as single line of text. Is it an existing supplier? Well, this is always yes or no. So I can actually go in here and I can do choice and make it a yes or no in my choices later on. Going on further, supplier name. Now, if we wanted to get into a more IT led, there could be a notion here that says, well, let's have another list of the suppliers somewhere else, and let's look up that information and pull it through. But for the purpose of this very simple citizen developed version, I'm going to just leave that as single line of text. We could make it a choice and add all the choices, but that could be a very long list. So for supplier, single line of text is sufficient. And same for contact. I can make this a choice as well on here. Oh, I've done that one already. And the raised by. Now the raised by one here just says accounts payable, but what we could do if we wanted to is we could make that a people picker field and we could select the person's name. So that will do us for now. We've got our very quick list in here. We're going to hit next. What do I want to call it? I'm just going to call it invoices, and I'm going to show it in the navigation on the left-hand side. Nice, quick, simple way of getting this on there. And because it's a very small Excel file, very quickly you'll see that's come across there. And in fact, what it has done is it's brought me a whole load of blank data because in setting up my table, I added a bunch of blank rows of data. I'm going to just take these out, and we can just do a shift click to select all and delete. Easy peasy. Oh, and not all of them. But I know why that is. That's because I didn't format the table very nicely. I went through and added a bunch of blank rows, and so it goes, oh, look, there's all your data. Anyway, so what we've got now is we've got very quickly all of our data out of Excel and into SharePoint. Now, this comes with loads and loads of benefits right out of the box. For example, instead of getting somebody to send an email And what I can do now is I can actually use the new item form. Okay, and I could copy the link to that, and I could send an email out to staff and say, right, if you want to raise a new invoice, please use this link, right? And what that would give them is a form to fill in. Now, it's the default SharePoint form, so it's not the nicest looking form in the world, but it's not horrible either. But it does have some fields on there that we might not want to show them. So we might not want to show them, for example, if the invoice was raised, yes or no. You see, we might want to say, actually, we want to hide that. We want to make sure that nobody has that field visible on their form. So we'll come to that in a moment. What we've got as well is, as I said earlier, we've got the ability to edit columns. Okay, so we know this is a choice field that came in, and now I can add my choices in. Now, I said I'd show you. We can say marketing, and we can say IT, and we can say SMT. Oh, sorry, I'm not typing. SMT, senior management team, and so on and so on and so on. Can they add manual values? Yes or no? Well, that's we turn that off to no. Obviously, we've got some manual values here. We'd probably have to go and update that. But if we turn that off, that will mean people have to pick our choices. Yeah, so we'll save that. Lovely. And then if I say, for example, do a new one now, and I say, what team is it for? I have to pick what's predefined for me. So again, making filtering and sorting easier because the filter by is available. And look, we've got the fictitious one. So that's one example. Now we've also got each item is a record. So you can make changes to that record and have a version history if you want to. So you can go through those sorts of things. So loads and loads of benefits from making it in SharePoint. The other thing as well is we can edit in grid view, which gives us a multi-field editable view of our data like we had in Excel. So we don't lose that ability either. So I could go in here and I could say, right, let's pick marketing, boom, like that. Oh, pick marketing, pick, oh, they're picked already because they matched. Pick SMT, pick IT, just to tidy up my data, okay? And exit grid view. So that gives us a very quick way of doing that and being able to filter and sort. We can also utilize SharePoint views, so we can have different filtered views. So I could create a new view and say, right, only show me the stuff that hasn't had an invoice raised. So I know I've got a to-do list and a not to do. So the next step that we're going to look at is some automation. Now, there's a couple of different routes to this. Now, the automate rule basically gives us the ability to set up some standard things that might happen on here. And it might be a really useful one is when an item is deleted. So when an item is deleted, it can send a notification to somebody, and then I can come and get it out of the recycle bin if it's not supposed to be deleted. When a new item is created. So I might need to come and have a look at an item every time a new item is created. So let's put a rule on that alerts somebody that a new item is created. So there's all sorts of different sort of useful ways to notify someone. So that's a very quick way of doing it. The other way we can also do it is we can integrate via Power Automate, okay? And we can set a flow up. And what you've got here is send a customized email when a new item is added. So we can customize the email rather than just saying there's a new item. We could have some customized messaging involved on there. What we can also do is we can start approvals. Yeah, so we could set up an approval that says, actually, do I want to approve or reject this? I can do that via email if I want to. So we can do that as well. So there's those routes. Now, all I'm going to do today is I'm just going to use the rule that notifies me, just because it's going to be quick to show you, and it's a really useful tip to do. So I'm going to set up a rule that says when a new item is created, okay? And this is how easy it is to automate these sorts of things. Who do you want to send it to? Daniel Halls. Okay, create. And that alert is now running on that list. Send me a notification, and I can turn that rule off, or I can edit it, or I can create another new rule. And we can do another quick new rule that says a column value changes or a column changes, but I'm just going to do the deleted one. So who do we want to tell? Tell me, thank you very much. Create. And so let's just test our new rules, right? So let's go down the delete route because that's obviously quite important. Right, okay, this one here, the car. Let's select that item and let's delete it. Okay, so that's deleted. Wonderful. And let's add a new item to the list while we're here. So let's say title. In fact, I probably could have named that column better. That's just title, but title is who. So let's say it was Daniel Halls in IT for £1 for a sandwich. Not an existing supplier. I got it from Greg's. Don't think I've ever bought a sandwich from Greg's. Don't know if they cost £1 or not. Is it a current supplier? No, it's not. Ooh, no. And has the invoice been raised? Again, we probably want to hide that. We're going to deal with that in a moment. Who was it raised by? So let's just save that for now. And there we go. Right, so there's my new item on the list. So let's have a look at what those emails look like that come through from setting that up for you. So on the left, you can see I've got Daniel Halls deleted, D Halls, and invoices. So that's the item. It was called D Halls. Probably need to look at that if we were going to make this properly. And I can go and have a look at the item. Or on the right-hand side, I've also got Daniel Halls was added to Daniel Halls added D Halls. Yeah, again, the title is probably not the right thing, but you can see that's the notification that comes out from the automations that we set up. So we've taken our data out of Excel and we've put it into SharePoint, and we've put in place some alerts that enable us to manage when people make changes to that data set. What we want to look at now is sort of the next level. So we've done that on a very simple sort of premise of using the Microsoft tools to move our process together to set up our process for us. So we're going to use that same principle as a citizen developer in Power Apps. So what we've got here is we've got a few options under Power Apps that say create an app, see all apps, which obviously is a list of applications in Power Platform, and customize forms. So the form I mentioned earlier that is set up to as a SharePoint form, we can actually customize that, and we can use Power Apps to make that look a lot nicer, to hide fields, to show fields as well. What we're going to do is we're going to go one step further, and we're going to use create an app. Okay, and it says, well, what do you want to call it? So I'm going to call it invoice management. Yeah, and hit create. So again, the citizen developer approach is all about using the tools that Microsoft have given us to make our day job easier. What the app is going to do now is it's going to take all of that data from SharePoint, and it's going to create an application that enables us to manage that entire process within an app out on its own rather than in a SharePoint site. So it's kind of like the next tier of using this. And what we can do with this is we can do some simple customizations that enable us to make it work how we want it to work, that will build it and make it a bit more of a standalone process. And we're starting to get on the fringes of, okay, well, what is a citizen developer and what is a IT developer? Creating an app in Power Platform using the tools is a citizen developer role if we don't make much customization to it and we expect it to stay relatively close to out of the box. If we want to start making loads of changes and customizations to it, we have to think about that lifecycle management we mentioned earlier, and we have to think about who's going to manage changes, who's going to test it, who's going to deploy it, what if it goes wrong, can we phone IT, those sorts of things. If it's close to out of the box, we can probably just phone IT and they can say, oh, let me have a look, and we will work through it together. If it's got loads of customizations to it, it would become much harder for them to manage lots and lots of different applications outside of something that's been developed under a fundamental principle of ALM. So here's what we've got. Okay, so let me talk you through the screens here. So this is the Power Apps Studio that you can see here. Across the top, we've got some tools that we can use. Down the left-hand side, we've got some different types of interactions that we've got. So we've got the tree view, which shows you all the things that are on the screen in the middle. So if we expand that, we say, here's all the parts. We'll talk through those a little more in a moment. And on the right-hand side, we've got the the more information tab. So, of what we've got selected, here's some more information. And it creates us these three screens. We've got a browse screen, which is showing me these items. It gives me this handy search bar at the top and some refresh, sort, add icons. It gives me a details screen, which is one particular item, yeah, clicked on as a form, and you can go back, or you can delete it, or you can edit it. That is an edit icon, believe it or not. And you can go to the edit screen, which is also the same as a new item screen, which gives us a form that we can interact with. Okay, so this is our application. If I press play, you'll see it's in this sort of mobile phone style view, and we can interact with it. Okay, so I can go, oh no, sorry, I need to go back to the home screen because you have to click through the buttons. If I press play now, just to preview it, I can say, right, here's my item. If I click on the next arrow, oh, look, it views the item in that form that we saw a second ago, and I can press edit, and it loads up the editable fields, and we get the drop down. So it's built us a bit of a way of interacting with the apps. Now, like I say, it's a mobile phone view, which is great because this could be then deployed to a mobile device, or sorry, used via the Power Apps mobile app, and people can then use this data on the go. The other thing you can do as well is you can go into the settings, you can change the display, and you can go to landscape and do lots of different changes to layout. So landscape's going to make it more desktop. So yep, we're going to apply that. Let that load. Let that load. There we go. And let that. Eventually, that will come into the right size view. There we go. So that scales it up to a desktop app. Now it's actually huge. I find this is the case. If we press play on that, you can only see 3 records. It's quite big. So this is where we can start to customize. Okay. Now, if we just want look and feel how the app looks on a page now, everything is very simple. It's drag and drop. Okay, because we're not doing anything fancy with it. So we can take this here and we can say, well, let's make that half the size of that, and take that background and make that half the size of that, and take that icon, that icon there, and make it fit into that. Oh, there's some padding that we need to do, which we can cover off in a moment. You'll see what I mean. Yeah, so we can do that. Those 3 icons have got loads of padding on them, because Microsoft give you loads of padding. I don't want to jump too much into this because this would probably be for another time, but let's just, there we go, make it so they're visible. But you can see that generally speaking, lots of other things then sort of resize around you. So as long as you're just sort of playing around with look and feel, again, this here, so on our tree is a gallery that displays items. What we can say to the gallery, look, the template size. Yeah, so it should be a minimum of that, and then it's a self height minus 60. There's lots of different rules here. We can wrap more on the line if we want to. What I like to do is take that smaller. You can see more items, and because we're on a wider screen, we can put data side by side. Now I'm not going to get too bogged down with all of this at the moment. Oh, don't do that. But just to give you an idea of how simple it can be to get to, there we go. So that's a little bit nicer. We can see that a bit better. Oh no, look, move that further along because they were rubbing on top of each other there. Snap that against there. So like, drag and drop, snap to, oh, I've clicked the button and so on. We can then go and make that a bit smaller. Edit. There we go. Look, so we can see a lot more records on the screen. We can make our search smaller. There we go, if we wanted to, and we can press play, and that looks a bit better. It's not perfect, and you could spend as long as like or as short as you like doing that if you wanted to. Then what we can do is we can save that. And publish it. Like so. And then we can use that in a full screen as an application to manage our data. We can also do some fun, clever things here like filter. So we've got data. You can see there's some filters, and then we start to get into how much do you want to do as a citizen developer, okay? And let me just show you, for example, some of the things that you can do here. So we've got sort by columns. So there's a rule here. So this is their Microsoft's expressive power effects language. It's um, it's a formula-based language that can be used to tell your data what to do. So what we're doing, it's kind of like it being in Excel. Writing a filter is like sort by column, filter, and then you start writing the rules. Now you can learn this, you can watch some of my other videos and learn how to do much more complicated things, but you can also do very simple things as well. So the filter thing, for example, you could change that from title and you could filter it by name. You could filter out, created by, so only show people certain things, and so on. I'm not going to do any more than that today, but the possibilities of a Canvas app are almost endless, to the point where you can build really great business processes on a Canvas app, or you can build very simple app solutions for your day job to make life easier. What I'm going to do now instead is I'm going to just close and go back to my, well, saved and published, I did that. Go back to my SharePoint list and show you where your app ends up. So when you leave the app, you land here in the default environment and you will see the apps here, and here's my invoice, okay? And this invoice application, we can then get the details of it, we can get the link to it, and we can put that into a whole browser window, and it will load up my invoice application. And there you go. So from here, I can actually manage the whole process. So you could give your staff access to this. And again, you could be clever. You could have some filters that say, this screen can show only mine. You could have a button that takes you to an admin screen that shows you all of them. There's lots of other possibilities once you're here. What I wanted to show you is the quick way of getting an application to manage your data in your business. And so we can now search in here. If you start typing A, it's going to filter the A's out. I just noticed that microscope is very, very small. Microscope? Magnifying glass. It's a magnifying glass. But you get the principle. Filter. Yeah, so we can search, filter, and find. We can sort them in a different order so they swap round. We can refresh our data to make sure we've got the latest version. And we can press add new. And, oh, I didn't set that form up very well. It's huge. But again, there's some simple ways of sorting those out. So could do a new one that is by that, and the team is marketing. The amount is that much. The reason is because, and the supplier is an existing supplier, and they are Microsoft. Yeah, and so on. But you can then hit tick, top right-hand corner, and you can see that's automatically added my new record to that list, and it's there. And I can click on it, and I can edit it. Yeah, I can delete it. Again, if you don't want the ability to delete, you can hide the delete button from people by taking it out of the application. And there you go. And if we go back to our SharePoint list where it all started, you'll see that there's my new record. And I can click on it and view it in here. Yeah, and here's that form that we didn't want people to see. The other thing, as I said earlier, we can actually go into the integrate, we can go to Power Apps, and we can customize those forms. And that would create us a brand new form that we can send to people. So that is the sort of basic premise of very quickly being able to create citizen developed solutions. Oh, and I've just got my email alert through to say that there's a new item added onto the list because we created that automation as well. I haven't done it perfect, obviously, because it's a quick video, but I've been able to take data from an existing Excel spreadsheet, get it into SharePoint with a few clicks. I've been able to create automation alerts with a few clicks, and I've been able to create an application that runs on a web browser on any device in a few clicks. That's the backbone of citizen development. What we spoke about earlier, and just sort of moving into a bit of a recap really, is the IT-led development is when you start going beyond what we've just shown you. When you want to start creating quite complicated filtering systems, if you want to create multiple lists to manage processes. So this example here, we could have had another list for all of the suppliers. So if there was a list for all the suppliers, we could have those stored away in a SharePoint list. Then we've got a list of invoices, and the invoice list can look up the list of suppliers. And then we could have a new form to add a new supplier. And again, that could have an approval process that says, this is a new supplier. Yes, it is. If it goes onto the list, it's then pickable in the future by somebody else. So it becomes a bit more involved as let's look at the whole process. But for all of those day jobs where you've got tasks that need to be done within Teams that you're doing on Excel, or you might be doing in emails backwards and forwards, you can use the tools to simplify and manage those processes better, minimize mistakes, give people forms. But the other side of that as well is the automation. Send me alerts when things happen. Make decisions for me, or let me make a decision and then an action will happen. Can all be done based on templates that Microsoft gives you. It's really important to note that everything that we try to do in this video today is included in the standard licensing model for an organization. Licensing can be a bit of a minefield with Microsoft at times if you don't understand fully what's in and what's out. There can be hidden costs and so on. If you've got Microsoft 365 at your organization, it's typically under an enterprise agreement, or if you're a school, it might be an academic one, and so on. So that agreement gives you, is done via a licensing cost. So per user, you pay an amount to have M365 in your business. These tools that we're talking about today, and a large chunk of the tools in the Power Platform, are included in that enterprise agreement. However, there are also premium features as well. And those premium features or more advanced features are an additional license cost. So most of the things that you would do for a citizen development road would likely come under the enterprise agreement model, and so wouldn't cost your organization anything extra. When we look at the next video, I will dive into licensing a little bit more and talk a little bit around Power Platform premium licenses and what you get with those for buying them. I hope you've enjoyed watching the video. Please like, subscribe. As I said, head over to my channel, watch the other videos that have got some more technical guides in there to the Power Platform. And any questions, please pop them in the comments below and I will do my best to answer those. A follow-up video will be coming out soon on the more involved development roads, the ALM and those sorts of considerations that we've spoken about today. But for now, I've been Daniel Halls at Power Platform Principles. Thank you.